Yeah.
All right, why don't you go ahead? Please introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Saurabh Sharma. I'm a fractional CMO working with brands ranging from Super AGI to House MD of Plastics and much more. I'm even helping a company launch a new kind of braless bra.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what are some of the things you see with all these different companies? They bring in a marketer like us, and they're like, "Hey, we want to scale." Like, what is some of the resistance that you see to people when you give them the instruction of like, "This is how you do this."
Yeah, it depends on like the founders. There are some founders who totally understand the role marketing can play, and then there are some founders who have no interest in what is marketing. And even in companies that have recently raised like 23 to 30 million dollars, they may be thinking, oh yeah, we the VC love us. We have been going to, we don't really have a brand. We go to these shows and people try our product and they want to buy our product. And what they're missing is that, hey, unless you really have brand trust baked in from the very beginning, people can just as easily go in and download an app and just as easily exit from an app or
Mm,
not buy that product because the consumer is really interested in like, hey, is this really an effective fit in my life? And that's where marketing comes in. And right now I'm seeing a lot of AI companies, and I'm talking to a few AI company founders who have raised like 20 million or more
mm.
for voice-based AI, voice AI for medical booking. So like Americans are currently like saying, hey, if I need to go urgently to see my doctor, I can't actually reach him or her, or I have to wait a long time before their staff can get back to me. And so a few companies have recently tried to solve that with voice, but they have no brand, they have no
Uh-huh.
marketing, and there is a resistance to marketing because they feel, oh, we don't really need it. But the truth is, they're about to be wiped out because the number one patient records company in the USA, a company called Epic, is
Mhm.
just rolling out that product itself in a couple of months.
Uh-oh.
So, make these companies that have no brand presence, no trust,
They're
be
gone.
irrelevant
Yeah.
without marketing
Overnight. Like
overnight. It
overnight.
doesn't matter. The market doesn't care how much money you have raised. The market only cares,
Yeah.
do you have a good product and can we trust it?
And it sounds also having a decent customer base. Like it almost sounds like, hey, why aren't you guys with these tools trying to partner with these service providers that's going to take over so that way you got some game in it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
so how would you as a couple as one of these companies, you're trying to build a brand, you got some fun and you're going, all right, so how would you what would be your phase option to establish brand recognition and build a consumer base to where companies that are coming out like this are like, we either need to acquire these guys or they're going to continue to run and build.
Yeah, I mean, it for me, it's all about serving. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
serving as marketing heroes. We're actually serving two masters.
Yeah.
We're number one, we're serving our customers, right, or
Yeah.
our prospects. So we're kind of like, are we educating them? Are we actually helping them live better in some way? So for me, I look at it: am I serving that? Because number two is sort of like my CEO and my CFO for revenue. They're like, hey, are you driving revenue?
Right. Yeah.
And
What's
so there has to be that balance between these two that all of us in marketing kind of figure like, hey, what should be the go-to-market strategy? What is a more effective way to understand the customer? And the silent question, Jason, that every marketing person has to decode in every company in America is, who is the actual customer? Because what the founder or the CEO or
yep.
the CFO think is like, hey, this is our ideal customer. If you
That's
actually
different.
go and if we go and we talk to the salesperson, right, and say, hey, who's actually buying the product? That's where you learn that, hey, this is actually the real customer right now. And it's nothing what we're told by the high and mighty.
Of course.
And so there's usually this disconnect in almost every company. And I think like marketing heroes have to kind of say like, okay, we really have to have this strategy where we are actually building it for the right customer.
Yeah. So is one of the things you do, you go in, you say, okay, let's build our ideal persona. Now let's talk to the teams and survey to find out who that persona actually is and see if you could marry it.
Absolutely. That's where I begin because I think we have to kind of say like,
Got to know your
is the
customer.
price right for that persona?
Yeah.
And what are they buying right now? Right? Who's our competitor? How are we different? And then based on that, I would try out a couple of campaigns, and I would try out a couple of campaigns organically to
Uh-huh.
saying, really, is it really the truth? And then based on the data that we get, essentially, are they clicking? Are they trying? Are they buying? Is the offer right? And then do more paid campaigns behind that kind of
Got it. So you're
approach.
establishing social proof and then pushing it.
Yes.
So one of the things I have trouble with some companies, especially new ones, trying to differentiate their product. Oh, well, we do this and we can do it for anyone. And you're like, no, you can't do that. How do you go about being like, all right, this is what we need to look at to differentiate, and this is who our target persona is, or who who we want as a target persona versus who we're actually getting. Because sometimes you need to shift because it's off.
This is a great question, and this is a great challenge I think every marketing leader faces because so often, like the founder or the CEO has an idea for what that brand or that
Mhm.
persona is, and all of that, and we have to test it out, and we have to use creativity as a way to kind of say be the guiding light. American consumers, we are the number one buyer of
Yeah,
products and services in the world, right? The reason why people want to sell the trade and all this is that people want to have access to the US market.
hmm
And so as brand stewards, we really do need to differentiate ourselves in a cluttered global marketplace. So differentiation includes standing out by creativity. So that includes the messaging, the product shot, if it's a direct to consumer brand, like I want the packaging to stand out.
yeah,
There's every aspect of what the customer is getting has to be unique in its approach. Even the email and the retention email and the lifecycle email campaigns have to stand out because even once you have a customer, we have to convert them into brand loyal customers that keep coming back. And it would be so surprising, Jason, like that so many companies don't pay attention to that stuff. So they'll be like, oh, we got a customer, but we haven't actually effectively marketed to them via email or in other ways. So, the customer will lose interest. So I would say all aspects of this stuff, but we have to stay on ground on, what are the pillars for a product or a
uh,
service or a company.
well, it's interesting you say that because when I speak with the company, I call that low hanging fruit. That's an easy win because you're just like, all I got to do is go in and do an onboarding campaign, and boom, we've got our first win in like 30 days. Um, but yeah, but in the differentiation, right? Like, and this is like in what you're saying, where I run it, it's like, oh, some companies are like, wow, that's a lot of different things. How do you marry that all together? Right? It's like, well, what you're saying, you put a product on a shelf in a retail store. If it's on the bottom, it's on the top. Placement's a big part of it. Plus, sometimes they like these pretty designs that are very white in a sense, right? Where it doesn't pop out. And I'm like, you need to put something on there. Like, I always have a battle with the graphic designers. Let's put something that pops out that's off the brand book, off the brand guide. They're like, oh, we want to do that soft brand. I'm like, no, it's not. You want people to notice this. Punch them in the face. I'm like, red punches people in the face and they will see it. And it's always this battle I have with them, like, these designers, and like, it's not perfect. I'm like, no, get away from that. But because that's a part of differentiating your product on the shelf, right? Like hitting them in the face with stuff. When they hit the website call to actions, boom, hit them in the face with what you want them to do. It's off brand, right? But who cares? Like, get them to do what you want. But on the differentiation part, like in the messaging, right? That's where I feel a lot of the creative part comes to. It's like you have to get the right people to do the messaging of the brand, what I find, because you have to speak to the persona, but it has to be clear, short, concise, and create confidence. So like, how do you find the right words to your wordsmithing? How do you find the right words, the right people to build those words to describe within one sentence, right? People don't have an attention span. You essentially, here's my product, here's what it is. what do you do with that?
This is so important, Jason. This is at the heart of every marketing, playbook.
Yeah,
It's like the Super Bowl is happening every day in your customer's mind,
yeah,
and so like they need to be able to remember in some way what is this brand about just by the sight of it, just by the smell of
yeah,
it, just by like the positioning line or the short line. So, thankfully, what I try to do, and as you mentioned, like having a design team and a writing team, is very, very important. Like, having craftsmen, or craftswomen too. I mean, like having a team of
yeah,
craft artists helping differentiate in terms of the words, short, concise sentences. Like I worked with in fact, like I was having a little discussion just before this call with a gentleman named Tom Caldecott, who is a fantastic writer, and we kind of get into market positioning, and like we were talking about this bra company, a braless bra, and like why is it not succeeding in the market right now when every woman should be wearing that?
yeah,
And so I think leaders need to cultivate and trust the writers and the art directors and the motion graphic animators to kind of help them with this task of connecting the dots with the brand and the products, but also effectively, like you were saying, getting that clarity in the messaging, getting that clarity and insights about the customers in terms of where they are in the marketplace.
mhm,
Even when we wear the customer hats ourselves, what we were buying 6 months ago is may have changed. And the same is true for the customer who is buying Levi's today or buying a bread or buying a car. I mean, the market is continuously evolving. So as marketing leaders, we need to have a pulse on it. And sometimes that pulse is like, the creatives that are working with the department, either as part of the external agency or as internal or as consultants. I think that having those conversations can help define those short sentences that are going to help with, customer acquisition.
yeah. I mean, it's a skill. Like I'm always trying to find people who are masters in this realm because the strategy, at least for me, the strategy, the analytics, that part's easy. It's when you come to crafting this perfect message. If you can get it right, it's going to take you so far, but it's very difficult to do to get it just right, so that way it tells you everything about it. Um, and with that, so now you've got this team and you've got this. How do you know you can trust, one of the things like, you got funding now. How do you know you can trust these creatives? Hurting creatives could be very difficult, right? How do you know you can trust these creatives to like be on point, be on not only brand point, but also consumer point, so that way they're not creating this philosophical message that you're like, people go, I don't know what this is about.
Yeah, 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 true. I mean, we have to be that brand steward and kind of giving them the guidance. It's that delicate balance as
Yeah,
well, and giving them the guidance to kind of going, hey, I need a new logo for this new company. And then they give you something kind of like artsy fartsy, which I love. But either it has to be more artsy fartsy or it has to be more like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
linear. And, and so you're right. Like there is a there and and sometimes the thing is like we have to not we have to give them guidance to experiment within that box, but also experiment to take risks. Like
uh-huh.
for me, I'm expecting my creative team to kind of saying, "Hey, give me something risky." I want to say, "I want to do that." Like I
Yeah,
really want to do that. Like make me want to do that. Let's not play it safe. Like if our competitors are playing it safe, let's not copy them.
yeah,
And let's try. I mean, if they in order to get insights, if our teams, like I tell them, I say, hey, if you guys want to use chat gpt and all these tools, Midjourney, etc., to kind of learn more or to play around with
yeah,
ideas, I'm okay with it. But at the end of the day, when I'm getting presented, like I want human to be involved in the creation process. And I don't want like the generic stuff that an AI robot has written. I want the writers to write their stuff, and they
yeah,
can research it using the tools. But I just want to make sure that, like, I'm helping them grow and also take risks because that's what they love doing. You
Yeah.
know, that's what like our director wants to do. It's like, hey, I'm doing a major rebrand for this company, and yeah, the logo, the identity is so critical. And it takes some work, and it's hard. It's really sometimes it's hard to make a choice, between are we playing safe? How are we really, how are these colors and really integral to who we are, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera. Or is
Now,
it going to be black and white?
well, you say something interesting. How long do you think before AI will replace people?
I think it's already having an impact on the writers and the content folks,
Uh,
which is kind of sad because I think that AI is a great tool, but it's taking what has been done in the past. It can't really think into the future.
not
That's where
yet.
I think that we still need to
Yeah.
have the human writers who really are skilled at writing to come up with those stories, the storytelling, that kind of that murky level of feeling,
Yeah.
right? People like 98, 99% of the buyers in our country that are not only driving the US economy, but the global economy
Yeah.
buy because of emotion. They don't buy because it's a rational decision. It's based out of emotion. So I think we're not going to be changing that in any way, even with AI. So AI is going to right now is I think it's a great tool to have. I've worked with art directors who are like, I would love to have this photo shoot. I'm like, we don't have a budget to do the photo shoot, but hey, we hate these images from the image bank. So so we recreated the imagery on Midjourney, which worked
Uh-huh.
really well. And I was like, hey, change it further. Like, you take ownership of
Yeah.
the whole design so that is it generative? No, it's like the human, a really talented art director is giving it direction about what he wants in that picture, and then he's further titrating it till it's right. And I'm like, that will work.
Yeah.
So that's what the tool is. It's kind of like a new version of Photoshop,
Yeah.
that these designers can now use as part of their toolkit. For the writers, it's a good research tool. But the SEO, on the SEO side of it, there's so many of these like companies right now. They're AI funded companies. They're like, oh, we'll just use like a marketing intern, and they're like, wow, gee, we don't have any SEO traffic because, well, all the blogs they've written are Chat GPT blogs, and they sound like robo speak.
Yep.
There's no no
In conclusion.
yeah, and so there's no real, like, you want to have that human interest story that's in there, and that isn't there. And then the Google has now is not going to be sending traffic or giving you a lift with SEO if you're using ChatGPT blogs. So, and if you have ChatGPT content on your website, like on a homepage, and you're a Fortune 100 biopharma companies, that is a no-no. So in my experience, Jason, like a lot of these companies are actually trying to put together policies pertaining to AI and creatives and
Yeah.
marketing, which is essentially kind of where we are, which is it's a tool, but please don't let all that copy be robo-written because Google has wisened up to it and is not going to send you traffic.
Well, since you say that, adding the human element, because I have a process to use AI tools to create copy, perfect scoring SEO content in 20 minutes. I can do 1,500 words in 20 minutes, but there's a human element to it that has to go through a process of using a combination of tools in order to make it have the readability of something that would be natural. But the human element's there. And what you say, though, is that we have these experts right now, but if you look at the growth phase to get to that point as a person within their career, like kids aren't, younger generation, they're not going to start out on that career path because they feel that it's already established, right? So at what do you think we're going to lose that level of intellect in that career path because it's not, no one's starting in Photoshop like we used to.
Yeah, Jason, you raise a very important point. There is going to be, and it's going to impact not just like the creatives, it's going to impact coding,
Everywhere. Yeah.
and it's already happened.
Yeah.
like Google let go a lot of software engineers because the AI is now doing a lot of that coding. And so you're totally right. In the future, like those of our children or
Yeah.
young adults that know who want to be coders are going to be faced with a more difficult time of getting their first entry level job because it's going to be they're because I think yeah in the future they're not just going to be competing with other humans, they're going to be
Yeah.
competing with AI. AI is going to be a competitor. Right now, it's a tool that we use, but in the future, it is definitely going to be a competitor. Whether you're doing a coding, because coding is ultimately also writing, or potentially design.
Yeah.
However, what the way to position humans for that is like, hey, the AI is only looking backward. It's only looking at the history of what
What's been
humankind
done.
has
Yeah.
made. Only humans can come up with the vision for the future. And we have
Yeah.
amazing visionaries, right? Look at Apple. Like, they're
Yeah.
just, the guy who founded it was a brilliant visionary, right?
Yeah.
And even since his passing, like they've come up with keychain and earpods, but, another take on like the same phone, a little bigger,
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing extremely visionary has come out of like the 200,000 people who work there. But it's still around. So visionaries are going to still be there, and these youths who are going to be driving the future, I would hope that they're able to continue to be evocative in coming up with a new kind of products and services because we're going to need them. We're going to need
Yeah.
them for the clean tech or climate tech
Uh-huh.
because we're still going to have challenges that need to be solved.
Awesome. Yeah. Couple more questions. One, you have a company. What's your phased approach to launching campaigns to help scale the business?
Yeah, I have a bunch
Say,
of collaborators,
yeah.
and I kind of get them into a meeting as soon as I can with a client.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, hey, because like the client is like, oh, I've got these problems. Like, hey, I have this product, and I don't know why I'm not getting any traffic from my website.
Uh-huh.
Haha, And so
That's
I'm
easy.
like, it's a very common thing, right? Like, because people there's so many interesting people and they're like, hey, I started this company, I have a PhD in this thing, or I've done this in
Yeah.
my life, and la da da. And yet when you come to like the diehards of marketing, that's where we are.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky enough that I've known a bunch of really talented people and they want to keep collaborating with me. And I'm like, and I keep putting them in these meetings with these founders. I'm like, because the founders come to me, they say, can you solve me this problem? I'm like, yeah, but here's how we solve it.
Yeah.
Like, this person can help you with this person can help you with that, and we can turn it around faster for you because they're not just interns, right? They've actually worked in
Got experience
agencies
and
or
exposure.
worked
Yeah.
in-house at like Fortune 500 companies. So, they know how to ride that bicycle.
Uh-huh.
And there's no imposter syndrome in my team,
Yeah, they know where they're
right?
at. They know how they got there. That's awesome.
you know it's like you and then so, like but and that's how I saw it. But bizarrely enough, I kid you not, like Jason, there are some founders that are like, oh, we we can solve our problems using interns, and I'm like, great, fine, good luck. And then there are those that are like, oh, we really see the value that you're bringing in customer generation and helping with all these things so
Yeah.
that as a founder they can just focus on getting a really good product out, right? So if they want to hire like 50 engineers in Bangalore or 12 engineers in Palo Alto, they can do that, and they can just say, hey, these are the goals, these are the metrics we're looking for, pertaining to sorry, I don't know what's happening with my thing here. And so there's it's hard because there are some people that you kind of say like, oh, that's not a good fit for us, because
Yeah.
like I had a client that my team was just like, we don't really want to work with her. And so I literally had to resign a client
Yeah.
because she's too difficult, she doesn't know what
Yep.
she's doing, and we don't have the time to get frustrated you know
I've had that where client will tell me, I went to graphic design All right, I took a graphic design class in college. I know what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay. Well, good luck.
Yeah,
You're on your own.
yeah, yeah,
You don't
yeah. I
need me.
mean, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's similar. Like where, you have a client or where she's like, oh, I was doing stuff at Amazon, and can you guarantee me like over 100,000
Yes,
sales?
I can guarantee you anything,
And I'm kind of like, lady, I mean,
right?
your website has like the worst content on it. Your LinkedIn page doesn't align with anything. And if I'm a customer, I can get you that or more, but we would have to change all of that. But she's like, no, I don't want to change anything like that. And I'm like, well,
Okay.
I don't know how we'll get there. Like, you gotta, sometimes these founders have to get out of their own way
Yeah.
to succeed. And we
Some
don't have,
I say
sorry.
someone like that, I'd be like, well, let's run a paid campaign, and then from those numbers, I can show you base metrics, and if it doesn't work out, it's you. It's not us, it's you. And if you can't accept that, this isn't going to work either way. But I know what you mean by showing them, like, here's like just that's a random situation. Like, here's traffic. It's not working. What do you want to do? Like, it's your site. But yeah, that's something I also noticed as founders, right? Like when I was in school, they go, there's the guy who makes the cogs and there's the guy who sells the cogs. And usually the guy who makes cogs doesn't know how to sell the cogs, even though he has the best cogs in the world. You know, it's like they're two different
Yeah.
skill sets, like Walt and Roy Disney. You have business, you have creative. Um, so as you say that. So a final question is, what AI tools are you using and that you're enjoying?
Yeah, from an art direction point of view, I've
Uh,
been really amazed with Midjourney. I think it's a really great platform for art directors,
yeah,
and also from us when we're like, I want that right image. And if I go into the image banks, like the good image, the
yeah,
Gettys are expensive to use. And then again, your competitor may be looking for the same image. So I'm
oh yeah,
really happy that now we have Midjourney as an alternate where you can say, I did an entire campaign for California architects where I had this amazing art director, Tim Paschke, and he was like, "Hey, look, we can like," and I sat with him and we made these images together, and it was brilliant, and it worked really
wow,
well, and they like, all these architects loved it too. Like the customer actually enjoyed it, so it was kind of fun.
that's
And then
cool.
on the other side, recently there's a company, and you may want to look into them. It's they're opening up offices in LA. It's called Moon Valley,
Okay,
and it's a company based out of Toronto that has just raised $43 million, and they're trying to make kind of video for cinematographers and filmmakers.
oh
And it's just raised 43 million and they're hiring like crazy. So and they need branding and all that. But
wow,
it's a cool new stuff, new.
uh-huh,
So and I think marketing would probably use that stuff for like better videos that don't look like,
yeah,
AI video.
yeah,
So, and I'm really excited to kind of see the potential of that because right now they're like, if you want to try us out, you got to give us like your email and we'll send you.
yeah, yeah,
You kick the tires of the beta,
yeah,
and then the other tool for research, Perplexity AI, I think is
yeah,
pretty good. What I like about Perplexity is that it'll give you footnotes because what Perplexity is doing is it's getting information from all the AI engines. So
uh-huh,
you're not just using Chat GPT. With
yeah,
Perplexity, it's actually using the data from Chat GPT, but it'll tell you, hey, by the way, I got this information from here and here and here. So it's kind of like, wow, that's really interesting, and so those are some of the AI tools right now that I'm enjoying.
awesome, man. Well, thank you for taking the time. Appreciated it.
Yeah, yeah, it's good to talk and good to
Yeah,
meet you, Jason.
you too.
High energy guy.